Hello and welcome to another episode of Coy Cubed. This is week 5 or 6 of quarantine, depending on when you locked in. And boy, oh boy, do all of us need haircuts. I just caught my own image in this image and also have something to compare it to. A pre-quarantine Coy once looked very coiffed. I just got the merch in for Coycast, the podcast leg of the Coy content empire. I am very excited to be here with you guys today. I am also very excited that I have learned, at last, how to stream live. It seems like it'd be something simple, but boy oh boy did I have problems. Finally got this to jump into the box so I can send out the link early. Still wasn't sure it was work. Very glad it did. Welcome. Join us. So excited you're here. Now, this is an episode today of great theatrical turmoil. Now, this whole pandemic has thrown all sorts of chaos into the world of cinema, and there are two very different stories today that both affect cinema. This being a very comic book-centric podcast, I'm going to start off with the comic book-centric news of the giant Marvel shuffle. Now, if you guys listen to the podcast, tomorrow, Coycast, you'll hear some of the same information, but I'm going to really work on starting to diversify the Coycast content and the Coy Cubed content. So there's only 3 stories that are in today's show that are also on the audio tomorrow. I want to start breaking these apart and making them feel separate, but one of them is the next story, which is all about the release date shuffle. So let's dive right in. There is so much going on in the world of Marvel release dates that they have to move from some of their own dates to other dates. Now, we already had Black Widow taking the date of the Eternals, shifting to November, and then the Eternals shifting to next February. But now we also have Spider-Man 3 moving to November of 2021, which frankly is a very different type of release date. We'll get to that in a minute. We've also got Doctor Strange 2, which is now officially Sam Raimi, moving from November, which was that trickier date, to March 25th, 2022. So Doctor Strange 2 is coming out in 2022 in the spring. It's crazy to think about a world outside of quarantine, much less one in 2022, but 2 years from now, in March, we get Doctor Strange 2 as directed by Sam Raimi. Very excited. But I think that has giant ramifications. Again, we'll get to that in just a moment. Thor 4 has moved up a week from February 18th to February 11th of 2022, and Into the Spider-Verse, we found out over at Sony, has moved from April 8th of 2022 to October 7th of 2022. Now, these are just numbers. These are just a smattering of thoughts and ideas coming at you, but the actual ramifications are what I find interesting. We originally had it set up, and I was so impressed with Kevin Feige for being the one above all that he is, for somehow 11/12 years into this cinematic universe having the movies get released in their sequel order. Originally, we had them come out Shang-Chi 1, Doctor Strange 2, Spider-Man 3, Thor 4. That was the original release, and I was like, how did he plan this all those years ago? Now, what's interesting is we have Thor coming out before Doctor Strange. That was 2 movies later in the original onslaught, and these are all well-crafted, well-choreographed. It's a long-form show. Like, it'd be like if the mid-season sweeps week episode dropped after the season finale. It's a very different kind of format. Now, obviously, they're early enough that they are able to restrape the structure. They haven't started filming. They can make these things work. But what I find interesting is I assume the Disney Plus element is going to be helped by this. The Disney Plus shows are getting delayed. The Disney Plus shows are in various stages of filming. I think some were almost done. Some had a ways to go. Some were about to get extended. There's a lot going on with Disney Plus. Now they've got some more time to work with that. But what's tricky is I think WandaVision, I've said this before, is basically a lead-in directly to Doctor Strange. I believe that it's going to be a reverse House of M, and she says something that splits the multiverse, which causes the multiverse of madness. The reverse House of M commentary is something that I said way long ago on Screen Junkies about the mutants. I would love if she said mutants instead of no more mutants, and it caused mutants to come into the fold. I don't think that's what they're doing anymore. I don't think it's right to bring in the X-Men or mutants this early into Phase 4. I think the X-Men and them will be introduced in Phase 5. I think we're going to get a sprinkling of X-Men characters that will lead to Phase 5, but I don't think we'll have anything as crazy as a reverse House of M as early as WandaVision. That said, I do think that Vision in WandaVision is all in her head, so all of the sitcom scenes, all of the unreality of Vision existing she then realizes that the kid she has, the sitcom life she's been leading, is all in her head, and she loses it, and that causes the giant schism in the multiverse of madness, and therefore that is a necessity for where the MCU goes, because I think she's effectively the villain, or one of the villains in Doctor Strange 2. Now, why this is interesting is because I thought Doctor Strange 2 was kind of going to be like Captain America Civil War, where, yes, it's a Civil War movie and it's called Captain America, but it felt very much like an Avengers film. We had 5+ new characters rumored for Doctor Strange 2. We were talking Brother Voodoo, America Chavez, all sorts of characters. So now with that release date moving, that's a very, very different thing. Now with that coming out after Thor 4, what does that mean for the continuity of all these movies? Now, we know Guardians as of now isn't moving, so that's not going to affect Thor 4, and obviously the character is tied to the Guardians right now. But there's a lot of stuff going on where I don't know how the original plan for the Marvel Universe could work with these release dates moving to this level, because now we're talking about things moving from year to year, but also in order. Like, these movies are in a completely different order, and everyone that thought that Sony and Marvel were, like, not agreeable about things, and with the Spider-Man debacle, clearly they moved the Sony dates and then Marvel moved around them. So that Spider-Man 3 is very tied into the MCU. Obviously they made another deal, so it would be legally tied to the MCU and use those characters, but they moved their own MCU complete separate movies around that Spider-Man movie, so there's something presumably that happens in Spider-Man 3 that may tie into the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So the dates as of right now, this moment for the Marvel Universe, and I included the Sony films. I'm including the Sony films because I believe the Sony movies are going to do this Monster of the Week thing where it leads to maybe a Sinister Six kind of flavor. I think Morbius ties into Venom 2 in some way. I think all of that ties into Spider-Man in some way. Maybe not as soon as Spider-Man 3, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a third act Spider-Man or a post-credit scene Spider-Man in Venom, which also, I do think we're going to see Spider-Man in Morbius. So I'm including that in this whole lineup because I think it's going to shape everything. So the release dates as of right now, including Sony's Spider-Verse, the concept, not the movie, are Black Widow on November 6th of this year, Eternals on February 12th of next year, Morbius on March 19th of next year, a mere 5 weeks after Eternals. Morbius drops 5 weeks after Eternals. That's a tricky spot. Then Shang-Chi comes out on May 7th. That is only 7 weeks after Morbius, followed very quickly by Venom on June 25th, a mere 7 weeks after Shang-Chi, and then Spider-Man 3 in November. So we literally have a 5-week gap, a 7-week gap, a 7-week gap, and then a couple months, and then we got Spider-Man. That is absolutely crazy. So that's all what's leading up just in 2021. The next year, 2022, we've got Thor 4 coming out in February, getting that sweet, sweet Love and Thunder date of Valentine's Day, followed a mere 6 weeks later by Doctor Strange 2. So Thor 4, 6 weeks Doctor Strange. Marvel has not had release dates like this stacked in a very long time, if ever. I don't know if 6 weeks has ever happened. So we've got March 25th for Doctor Strange kicking off the spring. A mere 6 weeks after that, we've got Black Panther 2 with May kicking off the summer. And then 9 weeks after that, we've got Captain Marvel 2 with the July 8th release date. So 2022 is February, March, May, July. We're talking 6 and 9 week gaps. And this is all MCU proper. This isn't including any Sony properties that might jump in there. This isn't including any of the Untitled Marvel release dates. This is the most stacked I've ever seen a release calendar for any one studio. I am excited and concerned. I don't believe anymore in the bubble bursting because I think that the audiences have shown they want more content. I do believe there is going to be a certain financial problem. If you only have the money for a couple movies a year and you've got movies coming out 6 weeks apart like this, that's going to be impactful. If you've got a 6 week gap where movies are $20, this is going to be crazy. Now, I'm a huge fan of subscription-based movie services. I'm an AMC A-list member. I loved MoviePass when it worked. I think that's going to be a necessity for movie theaters going forward. I hope a lot of theaters can find a way to do that. But what's really interesting to me is that the biggest studio in the world right now, Marvel, is having to stack their movies against each other. This isn't including The Batman. This isn't including the inevitable, hopeful Birds of Prey 2. This isn't including Shazam 2. There's so much content coming out, and these release dates are already eating each other. And that's not including all the other Disney movies. So Disney's already fighting itself with Pixar, Disney live action, Disney animation, Marvel. This is a crazy, crazy situation. It is unprecedented in the world of cinema. I'm intrigued. I want to know what you guys think. I'm hopeful. I am very excited. I think this helps the Disney Plus shows. We can kind of rearrange things. What I think is going to happen going forward is the Disney Plus shows are going to be like your monthly comic books, and the movies are going to feel more like event books going forward. I think that we will lead into giant annuals and event comics and all those things and have one every quarter. I could easily see Marvel having a show on almost all the time and then quarterly having a movie come out as this develops. I think it's going to be crazy. So that's where we stand with those release dates. All of those are on my Twitter. You can see them visually. You can see how dense those things are stacked up. It is quite the time, but that concludes our release date shuffle, because if you guys aren't as excited about release dates and what that means as me, that was very, very boring for you, and for that, I apologize. All right, and as you guys know, in between shows, I jump over to the Streamlabs, so I'm going to make sure I didn't miss any questions. I also am going to do a full-on review. I want to try to find all the new content coming out now that more studios are catching up to releasing things at home. I want to do a review segment of at least one movie in here every week. If you guys know my Patreon, there is a section in there where you get to pick any bit of content you want me to review. So I've reviewed My Hero Academia, I've reviewed The Accountant, I've reviewed things that I love or things I've never seen, and that is always going to be over there, but I do release it on YouTube. And then I'm going to try to include a review in this show once a week to kind of mix it up from the podcast. And in this case, I want to talk about Extraction, because Extraction I thought was, well, I'll talk about that in just a moment. I'm going to check over on the Streamlabs. This show, I want to lean into more fitness stuff. I've got some really cool ideas there, and I also want to make sure you guys get all the comic book knowledge starting today, this day right now. If your comic store is able to receive mail, there are new DC comics available in comic stores right now. And by the end of May, Diamond will be back to distributing new comics. It looks like on May 12th, May 20th, we get brand new comics from, at least for now, DC, hopefully all of the houses. I think by the time we get to May 20th, we will have Marvel, we will have Image, we will have DC, we will have Dark Horse, IDW, Boom, everybody. But for now, it is just DC. The two new comics this week are Daphne Keene #4, which is part of the Black Label over at DC. It's the horror line, specifically the Hill House line. And also, there is a Batman Giant #4, which is the old... Like last year, they tried to bring new comic fans into the fold, so they had stuff going on at like Walmart and those stores, so they didn't have the ability to... They wanted to keep those out of comic stores for now, so now they're in comic stores. So it's kind of cool that one of the first comics back to the world is, in fact, a exclusive to non-comic stores comic. So now we are all caught up. All right, Streamlabs checked, done my due diligence. Let's talk about Extraction, shall we? All right. Extraction on Netflix is all of the things that I wanted it to be, in that it felt like that John Wick flavor of action thriller that I would want out of a stuntman. As you guys know, I am a giant advocate for stunt people getting Academy Awards. I think the two categories the Academy lacks are casting directors and stunt people. There have been so many campaigns to right this wrong. Tom Hardy, during the Mad Max Fury Road campaign, didn't do press without his stuntman there, because that guy was on set as much or more than him. Tom Hardy sees the value. That movie is based around stunts. John Wick is a very, very iconic, powerful stuntman turned director that has now changed the way we look at action movies. The John Wick trilogy has forever changed things, again with Keanu Reeves, like Speed did in the 90s, how we see action movies. Then he went on and did Deadpool 2. We've also got Atomic Blonde. The powerhouse duo of those directors that are stunt people really, really changed things. Now, these guys were stunt coordinators, they were stunt doubles for giant actors, and now we've got another one in Sam Hargrave, who has doubled Chris Hemsworth and also worked directly with the Russo brothers. He's been second unit director. He was an incredibly capable stunt person and second unit director. Now he is showing his might as a director. Now, I love that Agbo is this production house where the Russos can handpick the things they like out of working with the best in the world. Love or hate the MCU, it is the peak of where we are with giant tentpole cinema. It is the absolute best of any industry. The best visual effects artists want to work there. The best stunt people want to work there. All of these people that want to show their work on the grandest scale, the MCU is a great place for that spotlight. So, with Agbo, the Russo brothers being such an integral part of the Marvel Universe, can pick the people they want from there to work with and then produce their content that might not otherwise get made. Now, they had their first film come out, 21 Bridges, which starred a Marvel alum, and I really liked that the movie felt like a 90s police procedural thriller that might not have gotten made otherwise. And this, I feel like, is an even better testament to a movie that wouldn't necessarily exist. You don't give first-time directors as much leeway historically, and this movie let Sam Hargrave direct the hell out of this movie. The stunt scenes, which is the whole movie, but there are certain sequences that truly can only be seen through the eyes of a stuntman. Like, you can see how he's been on 100 sets and went, let's just do this, just trust me. And now he got to. They trusted him. So I want to thank the Russo brothers for making sure to throw their clout around to get things like this made. I think that's the beauty of cinema. You get to a certain point in your career and then you help shepherd others. I want to thank Sam Hargrave for his tireless work as a stuntman. They need more notice. Superhero movies don't exist without stunt people. Most movies don't exist without stunt people, but especially superhero films. The moment that mask goes on, those are new people. Stunt people, thank you. So Sam Hargrave doing a spotlight on what action can be. It was tense, it was suspenseful, it was action-packed, it was ingenious in the way it invented new stylings. That 12-minute sequence, I'm sure you've heard all about. I loved the way it used the David Fincher zoom technique while using the Paul Greengrass directing style of the scope of the action, but not as shaky. Paul Greengrass kind of made that steady handy cam thing popular, but it had a Paul Greengrass flavor, but more stable, mixed with David Fincher's zoom stylings, all while doing some insane caliber stunts, and all of it felt like a oneer. I loved the 12-minute oneer. I know it was a few cuts, but I didn't... People that pick things apart like that drive me insane. I really appreciated the oneer. I thought it was brilliant. I also loved that a oneer isn't meant to be like this great trick where you're like winking at the camera like, look what we did. Sometimes it can be that on the side, but the whole thing's to make you feel like you're part of the experience. The whole thing's to make it feel like you're part of the ride of being in the action with the character. You're supposed to feel like you're the voyeur on the backpack or whatever with the character. If the cut takes you out of the scene, you know it's a different moment. This felt like 12 minutes of being in a firefight, being in something that only this set of mercenaries could possibly withstand. And it had twists and turns and surprises and went in different ways. The hand-to-hand in this movie is some of the best I've ever seen hard stop. The comedy totally worked for me. I love that Hemsworth was a Riggs archetype. Let's talk about Hemsworth for a second. He was able to do so much with so little dialogue in the very beginning of the movie, where you just liked his charisma enough that even though he was doing hyper violent things, we barely knew him. He had the Riggs backstory, which I love, that archetype of. We barely got to know the character before we had to care about the character, because in these movies it's really hard when hyper violence is happening, either to the character or because of the character. If you're not invested, the movie falls flat. That's the end. This used all the movie star importance of Chris Hemsworth. Like, some people just have a Ness, and Chris absolutely does, and shaped a movie around that so where we didn't have to play catch up. It trusted us as an audience to be like, we like this guy, here's a little bit of why, you'll learn more as the movie goes along. And I really appreciated that Hemsworth leaned all the way into that. And I really love the physicality of it. His center app is fascinating because he values mental health and physical health in equal measure, and he also values flexibility and diet. And the human body is 100 different things. And I think the way he moves is impossible without the way he's trained. And you see that more than ever in this movie. His flexibility for the size of the dude he is absolutely incredible. The way he's able to see how to tactically attack someone is because of the ways he's trained in moving his body in ways that aren't just curls. The dude he uses the Z-axis as well as the X and Y-axis when he moves. It's fascinating. When you look at fighters, the way they move through a room is different than other people. So when you look at people that train certain ways, you see how they attack certain ways, whether that's martial arts or just in their training. So I love that it looked like he had incredible martial arts training. I love that his weapons training was top-notch. I think Chris Hemsworth can definitely handle all the guns he seemed to. I hate in action movies when someone's supposed to be a mercenary and it looks like they've never held a gun, or if someone's supposed to be a marksman and it's like, that isn't even how... I know nothing about guns, but if I can tell, you can tell. So all of those things really made for an incredible experience for me. My only knock on the experience was I wish I'd seen it in theaters. And I get that Netflix and streaming is the future, and I understand that people like to watch things at home, but I wanted my first time watching this movie to be something where it was all-encompassing, where I wasn't slightly aware I could pause, where I didn't have like things happening around me. I love being in a theater in the dark with 100+ other people having the same ride, and that's kind of the benefit of the oneer. You're with all these people having this come at you. So if my only knock on the movie is really the fact that I watched it in a format that I prefer the other of, that's an incredible experience. I gave it like an A-. I really loved this ride. I liked the characters. I liked the kid. The kid was instantly endearing. I liked their relationship. I loved the action. It's up there with John Wick for me. I really hope Agbo gets to keep making things like this. I really hope Chris Hemsworth gets to keep leaning into properties like this. I'm also really glad Hemsworth gets to be home resting in Australia. That dude works his ass off and has been running around making movies like this for us. I'm very excited he's with his family right now, especially with a movie like that. They described it as an art house film with action, and the heart of what that character wants is so delicate and contained and precious, and then the movie itself is a cacophony of violence, and I love that. So the David Harbour scenes are spectacular. I don't want to give anything away, but know that David Harbour is incredible in this film. I don't want to give anything away about the end, but know that the escalation of where things go kept impressing me, because you have so much action in the first act. I worried about where it could go in the third. And again, not to give anything away, but I really liked that the movie trusts you. I like that the movie lets you experience the movie. So, A- for me for Extraction. Deeply loved the film. My only complaint is I didn't get to see it on the big screen, which is a great problem to have. Agbo, congratulations on a huge win. Chris Hemsworth, congratulations on a huge win. Sam Hargrave, what a fucking debut, man. Great shit. I want to see him do both Marvel films, because I hope that's inevitable, and more things like this with the creative freedom to make a 12-minute oneer that is hyper-violent, R-rated action thriller like we don't get a lot of anymore. More of this, please. Thank you, Extraction. It is incredible. All right, diving over to the Streamlabs, making sure I didn't miss anything. Michael M. Dude! Michael M., thank you so impossibly much. Thank you. Just keep on keeping on, dude. Fandom needs people like you. The most gracious of appreciation. It means the world. Anyone that helps with the Streamlabs, especially something like this, is how this is even possible. You guys are how I can eat. Thank you. Truly. Thank you, Michael M. Alright, I'm going to check on the live chat real quick before we move on to the next story. I haven't got to do a movie review, off the top of my head. I've been taking notes on the Patreon ones and treating it like a dissertation, because I want it to be like a thesis paper. I value movie reviews. I think they're really important. Whereas Extraction, I got to just watch and then stream of consciousness give my thoughts on this, and that's why I want those to be different. I want this to be a more freewheeling show, whereas those reviews, I want to have my format going. And I gotta say, I miss going to the movies and then talking about them with my friends, and I miss just leaving the theater and waxing philosophical about what I just experienced. And for me, that's what I want this to be. I don't know when the world's going to open back up, so I'm going to try to consume a bit of content every week and then be able to jump in here with you all and basically talk about it. So, all right, let me look into the live chat. Real Girl 26, it was made for Netflix to begin with. That's the problem for me. I don't like that we're making movies of this scale to be released on 60-inch screens when they should be on 60-foot screens. I went and saw Six Underground at the theater, even though it was already on Netflix. I waited and saw El Camino on Sunday when it dropped on Netflix on Friday, and I'm the biggest Breaking Bad fan I know. Movie theaters are how to see movies to me. So I'm worried the more we cater to, and we're going to get into this in the next story, but the more we cater to the at-home audience, the more we lose that. I would have much rather had, pandemic aside, I would have much rather had this movie come out and then 5 weeks later gone on Netflix, or at least a 2-week window for us theater folk. And more we're going to lose that as things develop, and that is the next story. But I know it was made for Netflix, and I know that was a deal, and I know Netflix helps finance all this stuff. But I'm a movie theater guy, and thank you for agreeing with me, Real Girl. That is where you see movies. It's in the name. It's like Comic-Con, movie theater. You go see movies there. I know it's not quite the same as Comic-Con, but you get what I'm saying. Okay, let me see. I did not jump in the live chat in quite some time, but I did get to the Streamlabs. Let's see. Okay. You guys are great, just in general. I'm a big fan of all y'all. Also, my mom and my best friend are in the live chat. Everyone say hi to Stephanie Jandreau. You recognize that last name, because it's mine. And Aaron King, I was his best man at his wedding, and he's also one of the absolute best people I know. He is a teacher. He has an awesome kid named Parker, named after Spider-Man, and he's just the best. So hi to Aaron in the chat. Me and Aaron are like, 16, 17 years of friendship, which is just insane in the modern world. And also, look at this shirt. Oh, yeah. Okay, moving on to, what's your main at MK2, Coy? What's my main at MK2? I don't know what that means. Mortal Kombat 2? I think that's Sub-Zero. I don't know what MK2 means. I feel really old. Oh, it is Mortal Kombat 2. Okay, good. I was really afraid there was like another, like a social media I missed. I like Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Reptile. I like the ninjas with their colors. They're real dope. The Academy has made all streaming movies eligible for Oscars, and they're combining sound editing and sound mixing in one category. So if the Academy has made that possible, I did get it right. If the Academy combined sound editing and sound mixing, give us stunt Oscars. It's right there, y'all. It's an option. Give it to us. Okay. My hair is not... This is quarantine, y'all. This is quarantine. All right, let's move on over to more news. It is becoming more and more apparent that VOD is the future. Now, it is obvious that people want to be at home. People want the comfort of their home. A lot of people don't like movie theaters because of talking. Expense is a huge one. Getting 4 kids in a car, going to the movie, and then spending $30 on each of them for popcorn and candy, not to mention the movie price tickets. I understand all of the problems you have at the movie theater. People not adjusting the actual light and sound at the movie theater. There are so many things about the theater that have variables. Anytime there's a variable, there's an option to get it wrong. That's the world, and I understand why people don't like the movies. But for me, it's not only the experience of that's how most movies were designed to be seen, it's also the experience of sharing. I think that human beings are by nature a tribal community. I think by nature we are much more like... we're much more apt to experience things largely when it's shared. We're social creatures. We're meant to be sharing things with each other. And the more we lean on the internet and the more we lean on isolation, I think that's why we're more violent, more aggressive. I think that's why trolls are so much more fervent every year, because we don't have faces anymore. We have emoticons. We don't have... We're avatars to these people. Like a lot of people feel like they can yell at me in comments and shit because like I'm not real to them. I'm somebody in a screen, but I'm here, and I'm aware that I exist, and my friends know I exist, but they don't. And I feel like the more we remove the human element, the more that's going to be a problem. And I feel like it extrapolates from there, like violence in society and hate and animosity. All of that is the macro to the micro that is being around one another. I'm fascinated by how this is all going to affect us going forward mentally. Like after this is over, after we've been in quarantine for so long, how we're going to interact. I know I haven't hugged people. I haven't shaken a hand. I've been running with a very aggressive monkey face on my face because I want people to fuck off, and I don't want to have to dodge when I'm running. I want you to be fucking scared of me because I don't want to be in your shit. I miss people. And I think that the micro of that for entertainment is sharing experiences. That's why I love cons. It's why I do what I do for a living. I like communication. I like talking. I haven't done any of these Skype cons or had people Skype into my show or had special guests because I want to be with the people. I like comic book shopping, my show, because I'm with people I respect and admire that I've curated something that I love to give to them. I love comic books, and I think that they specifically will love this comic book. I look at their interviews, I look at their movies, I look at what they love, and I shape with my knowledge of comics something I think they'll love. And that's personal. That's almost intimate. It's really connected. And I think movie theaters allow for a level of intimacy we don't get in other places. I think the intimacy of the movie theater is, I mean, you can be a sketchball about it and say it's like dark and blah, blah, but like, that's true. Like, it's dark and it's peaceful and it's calm and you're sharing an emotion. You're sharing something so much bigger than you that hundreds or thousands of artists have shaped into something for you to be formatted that way. That doesn't fucking happen on a TV screen. Put 10 people in a room. Fine. That's not 100. That's not 300. That's not an IMAX screen. That's not even a dinky little, like, $2 theater screen. It's not the same. So I'm terrified of the slippery slope of movies getting straight to VOD release dates, especially when they were made for their own, like... Universal has now had 2 movies come out that were supposed to be theatrical releases. I'm worried because we have now a great Wall Street Journal article, very well written. They basically have, with Trolls 2, made $100 million in rentals almost because they've sold 50 million... I'm sorry, let me make sure I get these numbers right so I'm not misquoted later. They have sold enough units that they've done what they would have made in 5 months of theatrical in mere 3 weeks at home, because at $20 a pop, they've sold 5 million units, so that's 100 million in rentals. Now, with VOD, they get 80% of that. With the theatrical release, they get 50% of that. So with a theatrical release, obviously you've got to pay employees, you got to pay lighting, you got to pay upkeep, like there's so much going to a theater. They would have needed to have made $154 million for the $77 million equivalent of what they've already made. Does that make sense? So if this was theatrical, they needed 154. They've made 77 by this release model, which is already the profit margin they claim in this great Wall Street Journal article that it would have taken them 5 months to do, as per where Trolls 1 was. Now, there's a lot of variables here. There's the fact that this is in quarantine, so we're all stuck at home. There's a lot of parents that would not normally be rearing their kids in the same way, that like their kids are home, they're not at school, they're trying to give them entertainment in a different way. There's people that literally have nothing else to do. There's 100 variables why this particular movie is doing this, right? But the fact that there's an article that says, hey, VOD can basically start eliminating the movie theater is terrifying for me, because basically it allows other studios to go like, well, what if we only did a $40 million version of that $80 million movie and just put it on VOD? Or like, what if, it's going to be this way? It can so quickly lead to a deterioration of what we once had. And I do believe that the large budget films are what keep movie theaters open. The Avengers, whether you like it or not, making billions of dollars, caused hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue for movie theaters, which allows for Marty Scorsese's bloated 3-hour think piece to have a place in the theater. That was rude, but I have no problem with Marty Scorsese. It's just like he lived in those comments for long enough that he didn't see that there's an ecosystem. There's a precious ecosystem to the movie theater industry where I think you need the summer blockbuster to allow for the mid-budget film to exist, much less the independent film to get its place. And it's a really tricky ecosystem that I think this is really throwing off. I really think this is going to cause not the end of movie theaters. They've been saying that for years, but I do think this is a giant speed bump. Not only are movie theaters struggling because it's been months without anyone in them, and all of those employees are furloughed, and all those mortgages are still getting charged, and that's a political conversation I don't want to get into, but all of these things are happening. That's going to cause a ripple in the movie theater industry forever. Not to mention the fact that this town shut down until September. LA's not filming again until September, most likely, which means they closed in March, opening in September, most likely. That is a 6-month window of no new content being made. So that's going to cause a ripple in distribution and getting things released. We saw a crazy tectonic shift just with the WGA strike, and that was one facet of the dozens of facets of movie and TV making. This is huge. So this Trolls thing, it really scares me because it gives a lot of people that want things to go Netflix, Hulu, VOD, pay-per-view, to point at the number. It gives a lot of suits, and look over here, this is an option. And this is just my plea to you, to when you can, when you feel it's safe, not when they say it's safe, when you feel it's safe, when you trust that it's safe, because I'm being careful, go to the theater. Whatever you have, like, don't, spend your mortgage, but like, support the theaters, support local theaters, support the big theaters, just everyone go to the movies. It's from the top, bottom, the studio level down to the $2 theater, like, just support them. They need you. I don't want to watch everything at home. I think that's, and I also don't want movie theaters to turn into Broadway shows. I don't want to spend $100 on a movie ticket. I don't want to spend $100 to go see the twice a year Avengers movies that are still getting released theatrically. Like, that's not the point. I like seeing the tiny things in theaters. I like seeing dramas in theaters. I like that experience. I also I saw Velvet Buzzsaw in theaters, and I never saw it again on Netflix. And it was a Netflix-made movie because I enjoyed the theatrical experience because it was the premiere. It was the premiere, so it was everyone that made the movie. The after party was they recreated the art gallery from the film. The entire experience was like this 5-hour experience that is one of a kind. So I can't even compare it to the at-home experience. So I never want to have the at-home experience because everyone said they didn't like the movie, and I did because I got to have that experience. And I think that is a rare example of the full scope of it, but like, every time I go to the movies, I get something out of it. I rarely give a movie in theaters an F. I rarely give a movie in theaters a D. Being there changes the whole thing. When I'm watching stuff at home, I pause, I eat, I get bored, I fuck off. I'm not as in. So, end of rant. Movie theaters, I love you. everyone that works on, for, or at a cinema. I love you. I appreciate you. Full disclosure, I worked for a movie theater for 6 years, from 14 to 20. I started working the week after my 14th birthday at a movie theater. I love them. They are the world to me. Next to comic books, movies are right there. So please don't have Trolls 2 be the beginning of the end for my precious, my baby, my lovely, my movie theater. So, all right, much love, y'all. That was my movie theater rant regarding Trolls 2. I hope they stay open. All right, let's see what the live chat has to say about me literally just saying what I want about the movie theater. Okay, let's see. Okay, people seem to be agreeing. Oh, what up, Sahil? I am, in fact, wearing a shirt with my face on it. I'm wearing a Coy-Cast shirt. I just got this in today, or yesterday. It's the first time I'm wearing it, so shameless today. Like, I'm gonna be shameless about, like, how hype I am for this. I also have this mug. It's coffee. Okay, I'm gonna click over to... Boom. What else we got over here in the news today? It was a small story, but I feel like it should have gotten way more notice, because I was very... Well, that sounds selfish. I was very excited about it and surprised more people didn't talk about it. We found out this week that Ewan McGregor was, at least at some point, some level attached to play the Silver Surfer, y'all. There was previs done for Silver Surfer Ewan McGregor. I don't know when this would have happened. I don't know what level of pre-production was done. I just know there are storyboards. If you look on the internet right now, you can find Ewan McGregor as the Silver Surfer, just drawings. But how cool would that have been? Think about his, like, still nature, his ponderous quality, his, like, beautiful emotionality, his sensitiveness, but is also his ability to, like, transform that into, like, hyper-aggression and very, like... I see it, man. Whether we're talking Moulin Rouge or Trainspotting, I absolutely see him as someone that can see the world in a way that's more than human. Someone that can, like, look out at us from out here, and that casting made me so happy because I never thought of it. I never would have considered him. Now Black Mask is forever changed for me. I completely see Black Mask as Ewan McGregor. Like, when I read the comic, I hear Ewan McGregor's take on Black Mask, so that is already impressive because Ewan had played him so magnificently. But can you imagine him as Silver Surfer? That would have been so impossibly cool. So once again, not really more information beyond that, just the fact that there was at least consideration at one point for the great Ewan McGregor to play the Silver Surfer, and that news made me very, very happy. Maybe one day we'll get a Silver Surfer in the movies. I think we will. I just hope they do him justice. If you guys haven't read Silver Surfer Black by Donny Cates and Trad Moore, it is so good it made me understand the character that I wanted to understand for 30 years. I tried to get Silver Surfer because he's Stan Lee's favorite character, and for some reason I never sought out Silver Surfer books, but then Silver Surfer Black got me, man. I was hook, line, sinker. I was all in. So check it out. It really helped me understand the character more. Couldn't recommend it higher. Silver Surfer Black came out last year. You can find it in trade. You can find it in individual issues. It's so good. And yeah, Silver Surfer Black. All right, we got Sebastian Stan wants to play Dracula for Blumhouse. Now, beyond just looks, beyond acting ability, beyond the fact that that dude should be in way more things, he's from Romania. Guys, that's the most Dracula shit. The dude doesn't age very much. He's got, like, such a gravitational pull of, like, weird, charm, sexy angst. He's got a darkness to him. They're making a Blumhouse Dracula movie, and he is actively campaigning for the role. I want this so bad. Can you imagine? Like, it'd be so good. Like, I haven't enjoyed a Dracula movie in some time. I'm a vampire fan. I want some credibility back for the Bloodsuckers. I want them to be vampires again. I think this is the way to do it. I think a really good script and an incredible performance by an actor that is... He's amazing in everything he does, and a lot of the stuff he does are like the indies and the blockbusters, but a lot of the stuff he does has so much detail work that isn't necessarily on the page, I don't think, that he just makes happen. I'm a huge Sebastian Stan fan. I really hope Sebastian Stan? I really hope that... And he also, his playfulness with fans, the fact that he stands things and he knows he's Sebastian Stan, the fact that he looks just like young Mark Hamill and plays into that. Like, he seems like a really good dude. He also trains with one of my favorite trainers in the world, Don Saladino. Don Saladino is on Instagram, and if you don't follow Don Saladino, follow him, tell him I sent you, and he is able to transform a body so specifically into such certain shapes, and he's able to make a character out of a physicality, and I love that. So Don Saladino on Instagram, brilliant man. Anyway, trains with that guy, and he seems like just a good dude. So I really want this to happen. Give me that Dracula starring Sebastian Stan over at Blumhouse. Also, it's Blumhouse. Please don't make it a $100 million action movie. Give me that $10 million Blumhouse joint where it's a frickin' contained Dracula piece. Give me that. I want it. Okay, over to the very important news of Parks and Rec. Guys, I don't know if you know this show. It's called Parks and Recreation. It's life-changing, genre-redefining, brilliant. It stars Chris Pratt, Nick Offerman, Amy Poehler. It's pretty much perfect, and it stars a character that I didn't realize I'd already been written as on TV until when I watched it for the first time last year like a fool and discovered Chris Traeger has been me all along, and I literally couldn't contain my zeal the entire time I poured through all 5 seasons of the show. I never binge watch television. I don't have time, and I usually don't want to. I don't like binging that much. Guys, I suck at playing video games because I never commit more than like 20 minutes, and that's not how you play games. And I suck at binge watching TV because usually after an episode, I'm only on season 2 of West Wing, and I started at the beginning of this quarantine. Anyway, Parks and Rec poured through. It is damn near perfect. I found it by way of loving Nick Offerman's books. Nick Offerman is one of the best comedic / nonfiction. Just his prose is so eloquent, and he writes about such important things. Nick Offerman, brilliant author. And I was like, hey, this guy keeps talking about the show he's on. And I watched Parks and Rec, which led me to The Office. So I'm the one guy that discovered The Office because of a book. Anyway, Parks and Rec has a brand new episode this Thursday. That's right. If you're watching this right now, it's a day and a half away. If you're watching this on Thursday, it's on tonight. If you're watching this in the future, you already missed it. Fucking find it. Parks and Recreation is a scripted, community-driven, for charity episode this Thursday. So they're doing first responder relief. They're helping people affected by COVID-19, and they've already filmed it, and it's scripted. Now, I'm super excited for the Friends reunion. I'm excited to see the gang all like reminiscing and talking about the good times, but I'm way more excited to see a in-character Chris Traeger talking to everyone I love on that show. Give me Parks and Rec. It's couldn't be for a better cause, and I couldn't be more excited. So Parks and Rec this Thursday on NBC. Please watch it. Also, here comes Dorian. He heard me. Dorian's everywhere. Dorian just like breaks quarantine, busts in my house, knows where I live. On a more personal note, I have been battling my internet, as you guys may know. The only way I was able to get internet in this place was by one, zoning. Actually, that's way too much information. One of the only ways I was able to get internet in this place was I had to get a business line, which required me to get internet and video and a phone. So I've just got a phone sitting around, which obviously I haven't even plugged it in because it's a phone, like a wired phone. But I've got cable. I haven't turned it on since I got that installed in late February when I was fighting all this madness. I literally haven't used it. But you know what I'm fucking watching on NBC when it airs? For the first time, I will use the national broadcasting system. It's worth it for at least this month. It won't be worth it again next month. There's nothing on TV. How do people watch TV? Anyway, moving on. Parks and Rec this Thursday on NBC, and then I think it's streaming either the next day or later on that night. I am made of hype. Let me check over on the Streamlabs. All right. And if you guys haven't watched Parks and Rec, now is the best time ever because quarantine, y'all. Just dive in. It's a warm, fuzzy blanket of pure positivity and happiness. Chris Pratt became the Chris Pratt we all love on the show. You see him evolve beautifully, like a wonderful butterfly. It's so smartly written. Amy Poehler shepherded the hell out of a very smart and different show. A lot of people didn't get into season 1 that much, but I liked it. It only gets better, but I liked it, and it's just really positive. I like shows that like don't have. There's enough cynicism in the world, there's enough negativity in the world. It was really nice to have just a positive show, and Ron Swanson is everything you've heard he is. All the memes will suddenly make a lot more sense, and you'll be much happier knowing that Ron Swanson is out in the world, and it's real good TV. All right, also in the world of news, this week we got an update from the great Kevin Smith about Mallrats 2. He has finished the Mallrats 2 script while in quarantine, and it deals with the closing of the mall and expectations and happier ever after not always being so happy. And I think that is such an interesting take on a sequel to Mallrats. I'm excited as hell because I love the first one. Obviously, kind of shaped my life. I became Brody Bruce, but happier. Think about it, like, obsessed with comic books, loves them all, and then became a talk show host. Like, I didn't realize until I was deep into hosting that I accidentally became one of my favorite characters from the 90s. And then I got to talk to Kevin about it, who very sweetly said I'm so much nicer than Brody Bruce, the character, which I will swoon about Kevin Smith all day. But right now, I will say that Kevin Smith is writing Clerks 3, he has finished Mallrats 2, he's working on Moose Jaws, and so all of that's coming. And we've got a bunch of deals in place from studios to get those things out there. We have so much potential for tons of glorious, like, OG Kevin Smith content, and he's using this time and his new outlook on the world to make these scripts great. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot has one of the most heartfelt, most Kevin Smith scenes ever in it, with Ben Affleck playing a pseudo Kevin Smith part, like he plays a kind of a parallel to Kevin Smith in real life, and that scene has more heart than most of the Oscar films last year, but it's got a ton of great dick jokes and a bunch of USQ references. So if Kevin Smith's able to make that tonality work in the world of Mallrats by having this sentimental acknowledgement of what happens after Happily Ever After, then I couldn't be more excited for that world of Kevin Smith. So I'm really stoked. I'm going to do my damnedest to be in that damn thing. I told him I would literally do crafty on the set of Mallrats 2, and I mean it. I will chop carrots on the set of Mallrats 2, if it means I'm on the set of Mallrats 2. So time will tell. Very excited about it. Keep your eyes peeled. Most of the cast is coming back, which is already incredible. He also revealed that Michael Rooker was, in fact, his goal for Lex Luthor with the Kevin Smith Superman script, which now I definitely want to see, because LaFours and the chocolate-covered pretzel, all that Lex Luthor glory, like, it's right there. One day. Okay, I'm going to look into the live chat. Here we go. Coy going full Schnepp with the haircut. Yeah, man. Quarantine is making me lean into my my less coiffed ways. Matthew Richards, right now all we have is Bram Stoker's Blade 1, Legacy of Kain. I think there are other vampire properties, but I agree, like, they're more rare than popular, but there are things. My mom is obsessed with vampires. If you guys want to talk vampires, Stephanie Jandreau in the chat is definitely going to help you understand her love of vampires at any given moment. Let's see. All right. Jenna James, interesting point. Happened in the music industry during the last decade. Whether it happens tomorrow or in 5 years, like Thanos said, Coy, it is inevitable that movies will move to streaming VOD sooner rather than later. I agree, but much like music, we have Spotify and whatever other program you use for music, but concerts exist. That's the communal experience. There are absolutely your stadium shows. There are absolutely those giant $500 ticket Rage Against the Machine. What the fuck? My Chemical Romance prices. I couldn't. There were all those things, but there's also, like, one of my favorite rappers, his name is Yellow Wolf, and his shows are $20, and I think they're more energy and they're better shows because they're in a contained environment, they're at smaller venues. I think there is an evolution of the movie theater genre happening, and I think movie theaters are forever changing, but I don't think having things come... like, Spotify and concerts can exist simultaneously. If you have movies come out straight to VOD, I don't think movie theaters can exist simultaneously. I think you need that window. I think you need at least a 2 to 3 week window. The people that want to watch it at home, just wait. Let people that want it in movie theaters have that option. I think you can have a very different experience listening to a song than hearing it live, so both can exist simultaneously. I don't think enough people see a big enough difference between VOD and going to the theater. I went and saw, like I said, El Camino and 6 Underground. Those theaters were empty because they were at home on Netflix watching it because they wanted to watch it on Netflix. When you listen to a song on Spotify, you're not like, well, I've heard that, I'm done with it. A lot of people are like that with movies. So respectfully, I completely see what you're saying, but I think they're completely different animals. I think that's apples and oranges. They're both very delicious fruits, but when you want an orange, you want a fucking orange. You want an apple, you want to put some peanut butter on it, you want an apple. So I hope to God it doesn't go the way of music because I think they're very different things. But I appreciate the insight, and I see what you're saying. I just, personally, for my own bias, hope not. People in the chat talking about... thoughts on Screen Rant articles stating Chris Hemsworth has struggled to wow critics with Netflix Extraction. My thoughts on that... Oh, once again, Jen and James. My thoughts on that are, man oh man is it slow news, so boy oh boy does Screen Rant want clicks. I love Screen Rant. They're great. They don't have a lot of clickbait, but I think stuff like that's just, like, sensationalizing a bit story. Like, I think it's gonna be way more exciting to click on on someone being pouty about a perspective than someone celebrating art. Like, we lean negative on the internet, which is why I try to be the voice of positivity. It's way more clicky to be like, Chris Hemsworth disappoints in movie outside of MCU than Chris Hemsworth wows in Extraction. Like, you get the SEO of MCU, you get the disappointed, like, oh, why was he disappointing? Like, oh, is that true? Let me look at other shit. Like, there's way more that's gonna pull negative people into that article, so I think Screen Rant's just, it's low-hanging fruit. It's an easier thing to go that way. So I disagree, and I hate that kind of journalism, which is why I struggle to work on the internet a lot of time. Okay, more news. Let's see what else happened this week. Guys, we're running a little long this ep. I hope that's okay. All right, we also got news that American Pickle is coming straight to HBO Max. I have 2 streaming stories back to back. After talk, this whole episode is brought to you by my wanting theatrical releases versus streaming. HBO Max is releasing one of my most anticipated movies of the year. It is called An American Pickle. That's right, it is a movie about Seth Rogen being pickled and waking up at a different time. This movie has been high on my to-watch list. I know people involved in the production. I respect the hell out of these people. I've known them for a long time, and they are some of the most talented people in this town. So when they say this movie's great, I believe them. I could not be more excited for the premise. I think Seth Rogen is he's underappreciated in the comic book space. The dude has shepherded so many independent comics that wouldn't have existed. He's gotten so many things produced and made that are so obscure. The dude loves comics. Like, he doesn't like comics. He's not getting like fucking surface level shit made. He's making the weird stuff. So I have a lot of respect for Seth Rogen for a myriad of reasons. And I think his later work, his most recent work, not like his latter day work, his most recent work, like 50-50 and especially Long Shot, both of those showed a lot of heart and a lot of intelligence. And Long Shot was one of the best political comedies I've ever seen, and no one saw it. It made my top 10 of the year. No one saw Long Shot. So I'm excited for An American Pickle because I think the heart of Seth Rogen is underappreciated, but the comedy is very properly appreciated. I think a lot of people see that he's one of the best comedic actors working. I want more people to see the heart in his comedy, and I want An American Pickle to do gangbusters. So that comes out in May on HBO next month. We are mere weeks away from An American Pickle. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. I love the first official image being a actual tin print of the great Seth Rogen and that magnificent beard. I'm very excited, and I think he's going to surprise people, and I want Seth Rogen to continue to take really bold chances, both as a producer, an actor, a writer. I think he's brilliant, and I really want this to be great. So, An American Pickle comes out on HBO in May, and it's one of those that, like, I would have loved to have seen it in theaters, but I get it. It left Sony, now it's an HBO. I'll be there. It's actually the first thing that HBO Max has announced that I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get HBO Max. Like, it's the thing that's pulling me towards HBO Max. It's another streaming service, and nothing had to date been like, that's why I'll be there. And now An American Pickle will. So I also think it's really funny that An American Pickle is the thing that is bringing me over to that streaming service. So give me that movie. All right, over to another streaming announcement. The King of Staten Island was due out in June. Now, this is a Judd Apatow film starring Pete Davidson, and it was not moving. As of like 2 weeks ago, it was still on June. There's a few movies that are holding their release dates. Tenet is still scheduled in July. Mulan got a new release date in July, and it's holding right there. June had this movie from Judd Apatow on it. Everybody's like, bro. Now we know why. It is officially coming out on VOD, and it's coming out around the same time in June. On June 12th, we are getting The King of Staten Island. Now, this is the second Universal film to do this after Trolls 2. I mentioned earlier in the show, Trolls was one of the ones. This is the second. This is a drama. This is a comedy drama. This is a movie that a lot of people might not have seen in theaters, so I see why they're doing it, but another Pete Davidson film that came out this year on Hulu, Big Time Adolescence. I would have loved to have seen that with an audience. I thought it was inspired. I thought it was funny. I thought Machine Gun Kelly was great in it. I'm a big Colson Baker MGK fan. I thought it was not slept on. I didn't hear enough about it because it didn't get a theatrical push. This, I feel like, is another opportunity for, I would have loved to have seen this in theaters. But, once again, all of the things I'm saying have an asterisk. I get we shouldn't be going outside. I'm not going outside. I leave once a week. I get the movie theaters can't open. Give these movies the chance to get some legs, and now is the time where people are stuck home. I completely get it. I just don't want to be in a movie theater, but I already went on that rant already. But know that June 12th, we are getting a Pete Davidson, Judd Apatow joint coming straight to you guys at home on VOD. I'm very excited for it. I'm a big fan of both those dudes. And then an American Pickle coming out even sooner on HBO Max. So tons of stuff to stream, both of those things in the next coming weeks. Let me click over to the Streamlabs before I talk about UFC 249 for the 5 people that watch this show that care about my thoughts on UFC. I tend to save my curls portion of the show for cinema, comics, and curls. Oh, I'm sweating. Oh, it's so hot. For the end of the show because it's not my main thing on the internet. A lot of people don't think of me as a guy that likes the UFC, but I do want to talk about it for those people that are invested. My internet is as slow as my room is hot, so I gotta load this for a second to get to that question. I will be right back to it. In the meantime, I will, at the end of this episode, be giving both my streaming recommendations. I'm gonna restructure how I do that. Basically, I'm going to do it by the week. So what I had been doing last month was Netflix 1 week, Hulu 1 week, Apple Plus 1 week. Instead, I'm going to look at what comes out per week. So this is the first week of May and all those properties. We are almost done being loaded, and I will do that near the end of the show after I talk about UFC 249. All right, did you guys know that it doesn't matter how much you pay for internet, it still freezes, and that's fun? So I see that I've got a new Streamlab in here, but it just won't load. Okay. Once again, while this loads, let's talk about UFC 249. I promise, whomever put the thing in the Streamlabs, I am fighting for its load. UFC 249 is officially happening on May 6th. This is very exciting because it was almost happening on an island. We almost had Mortal Kombat in real life because they had basically gotten an island to house fighters on that was going to be a secret island wherein they just imported fighters and they made them fight. That's the most Mortal Kombat shit ever. Because of the pandemic, they're fly them to an island and make them fight. But now it is happening in Jacksonville, Florida. Florida, also another very Mortal Kombat-like land. I'm very excited because the card is stacked. I am so ready for this madness. It is happening very soon in May, and the headlining fight, May 9th, Saturday, May 9th. Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gauthier. Now, I think that's how you say his last name. Tony Ferguson is one of the most inventive fighters out there. He is fascinating. He moves in video game-like ways. He's so good at getting angles. He doesn't come head-on often. He uses everything in the octagon to fight, and he has so much versatility, ground and up. He's incredible. But this Justin Gauthier guy, he's one of the most brutal fighters. The dude just is an animal. I'm fascinated by this fight. I never would have put it together. I never would have imagined this being what came out of the lack of Khabib fight, but here we are. I thought it was really going to be Tony, Khabib, Conor, Justin, and then the winner of that. I really thought that was going to land. I think that was the goal, but now we're getting the Gauthier-Ferguson fight, and I am all here for it. Then, on the second one down, what do you call that? The penultimate fight? Yeah. The co-headliner is Henry Cejudo. I'm bad at pronouncing names. I'm apologizing. Versus Dominic Cruz. This is the actual title belt for the bantamweight fight. So the bantamweight division is a tricky division. I think that both of these dudes absolutely deserve to be up for the title. The bantamweight I feel doesn't get talked about nearly enough. I do feel like it's going to Henry, but that's only because I don't know Dominic Cruz as well. So my money so far is on Tony Ferguson and Henry Cejudo. And then the Francis Ngannou fight is probably the most anticipated next to Tony Ferguson. I got everything on Ngannou. I think he's incredible. I don't know Jairzinho Rozenstruez at all. But they're both, I've seen a couple of his fights because I looked him up when they announced this card. But Ngannou is one of the craziest dudes out there. His sheer force and his speed for being such a big dude is absolutely crazy. I'm a big fan of his work. Jeremy Stephens versus Calvin Kattar. I got Jeremy Stephens just because I know his work more. And then finally Greg Hardy versus Jorgen De Castro. I don't know either of his dudes. Don't know him, straight up. So I got nothing on that heavyweight bout. So the last heavyweight bout, I'm not sure, but I'm really excited all around for this card, and I will not bore you guys with my UFC hype anymore because I got that Streamlabs to work. Smack Talk! What up, man? Smack Talk says, hey, Coy, would you consider getting either a Flirt and Flouse? Would I consider getting either a Flirt and Flouse haircut or a Seamus Mohawk just for fun or for money? I would. I think I couldn't do the Vlertenflaus haircut because I need to work again. And I do think that it's going to take longer to grow out than I would be comfortable being on a con for. And I think there are a bunch of things coming up in the fall that I would like to be at, and that haircut would prohibit that. The mohawk does intrigue me, but both are very intimidating. But I respect them both, and I respect the Vlertenflaus movement that is going on in the world. But yes, it is quite the thing. Hello, Stardrew. It is quite the movement that is happening over in the world of Schmodown, and I'm so glad I finally got that load. So I would consider one of those, but both are intimidating because of the rest of society that I have to at some point reacclimate to. And we're not going to get into politics today, but the press conference from Gavin Newsom over here in California has me optimistic for the first time in a very long time. I do feel like the world may reopen sooner than later for the first time since this all started. I think we might be out of here in like mid-July now, and I was thinking it'd be August. So I'm really excited. So I'd like to have hair. But mohawks are dope. All right, over to the world of streaming. All right, these are all movies that already got a theatrical run, so I'm very excited they're going to be on streaming. These movies had their time to shine in their proper setting, so I'm going to say these, out of every movie that gets released, I'm trying to go through the list and give you my recommendations. These are the Coy curated recommendations for movies coming out the first week of May. Over on Netflix, May 1st, Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2. I don't even need that to tell you why to watch the Back to the Future movies. It's Back to the Future. Guys, the third one not being on there, a little weird. Not quite as good, but it's Back to the Future. They're all incredible. Watch Back to the Future. If you haven't seen it, come on. Jarhead. Jarhead is a war film that isn't about war. It's about the absence of. It's about what it's actually like. I've never been to war. To be out there, it's the absence of. It's an anti-war film, but not in a political sense necessarily. It's hard to explain what Jarhead is. It is a Sam Mendes film starring Jake Gyllenhaal that features the monotony of war while also being extremely captivating because everyone in it's incredible. The cast is great. The imagery is beautiful. You might remember way back in the day, the trailer had Jesus Walks in it, and I remember that was the first time. That was one of the first times I heard Jesus Walks not just Kanye centric. Like I was like, holy shit, Kanye's pop culture. So Jarhead is now on Netflix as of May 1st. Very good film. Sam Mendes, Jake Gyllenhaal. Come on. Curious Case of Benjamin Button, one of David Fincher's less talked about films. Brad Pitt, Cate Blanchett, the classic story of Benjamin Button, Ages in Reverse, beautiful film. The setting of New Orleans is used just eloquently, wonderfully. I really like this movie. A lot of people aren't as big on Curious Case, but I think it's spectacular. The Patriot, my boy Heath Ledger and Mel Gibson, two of my favorites, just being awesome Australians that are also Americans that are founding America in The Patriot. That's how we cast. I love both these actors. I'm a big fan of The Patriot. I remember the last time I watched it was bloodier than I remembered, which I'm not as big on. But I really, really dug it, and it still holds up. The Patriot's such a badass movie. We've also got the Underworld movies. We were talking about vampires earlier. I think the Underworld movies are a little slept on. I feel like the Underworld movies, as far as, vampire lore go, they're like the sexiest. I love the soundtrack from all these movies. I love the world built. I love the production design. I love that you know instantly when you hear a song or see a visual that they're from Underworld. Kate Beckinsale is like human perfection. Scott Speedman's fantastic in these movies. Werewolves versus vampires. Like, what do you want, people? Underworld. Fantastic. All right. We got Jerry Seinfeld has a new comedy special on May 5th. So before the next episode of Coy's Cinema Comics Girls, we've got a Jerry Seinfeld special. I never watched Seinfeld. I'm the worst ever. But I do watch and love Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. So this will actually be my first Jerry Seinfeld special. And I'm very excited because I'm a huge fan. It's probably my favorite show. Some Good News is my new favorite show, but I think that Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee might be my favorite, consistent new, getting new episode show. So I'm really excited to see how Seinfeld does in stand-up, which is a funny thing to say because he's been doing it for 30 years. Okay, over on Disney Plus. Disney Plus, the first week of May, we got George of the Jungle, Friend to You and Me. George of the Jungle is a Disney classic to me. I don't know if it is to anyone else. It is Brendan Fraser at the height of his powers. If you ask me what Brendan Fraser's in, I wouldn't say The Mummy. I wouldn't say Encino Man. I'd say George of the Jungle. That's right. George of the Jungle's Brendan Fraser is so good in this film. It also features Thomas Hayden Church in an incredible role. It features Leslie Mann long before she married Judd Apatow and started doing great work in all of his films. It is a spectacular journey of comedy, brilliance, and Tarzan tropes. Check out George of the Jungle if you haven't seen it. We got both Homeward Bound movies over on Disney Plus as of May 1st. If you want a good cry, if you want to get some of your emotions out, I would highly recommend checking out that glory. Oh, got a wonderful super chat. Mukbang Reviews. What's up again, man? General support for your work, knowledge, and enthusiasm. Thank you, Mukbang. Cheers to you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Sincerely. Much obliged. We also got this week on the news and Disney Plus, John Carter, May 2nd. Guys, John Carter on Mars is one of those movies that I hope we look back in 10 years, like we'll look back on Speed Racer, like, that was great. Willem Dafoe, so good. Taylor Kish, so underappreciated. John Carter was just misadvertised. John Carter isn't actually a great film. Oh, also, Dr. Nitrogen's Musical Empire, one of my favorite names. Whoops, forgot to attach my donation for my comment. Oh, what was your comment? Thank you for the donation. I don't know what the comment was. Let me see if I can find it. Dr. Nitrogen. More support for the great content. Still waiting for my Saga compendium. Can't wait to get into that. Agree with your enthusiasm for movie theaters. Dude, thank you. 1, for reading Saga. 2, for agreeing with me, because that helps. I appreciate it. And 3, for the comment and the donation. Thank you very much all around. And I'm going to get back to what is available. So Taylor Kish and Willem Dafoe in a space odyssey. Like, John Carter's one of the most classic sci-fi books ever. And the movie just got crapped on. And I feel like it was just poorly reviewed, so no one saw it. Check out John Carter of Mars, which is what it should have been called, on May 2nd on Disney+. Then on May 4th, May the 4th be with you, now that Disney has a streaming, is going to be utilized correctly. May the 4th is the series finale of Clone Wars, the series finale. And Star Wars Episode 9 is coming out early over on the Disney+. So if you want to enjoy Star Wars, check out Clone Wars. If you want to watch Star Wars, check out Episode 9, if you want. It's available. Over on Hulu, we got Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. Holy crap, do I love these movies. I rewatched them for quarantine, and they just rekindled all of my love. Chris Nolan, I mean, guys, it's Chris Nolan. It's Christian Bale. It's the Batman. I love these movies. They hold up brilliantly. Heath Ledger's Joker is still my favorite Joker. Batman Begins is still underappreciated. I feel like Batman Begins is like an A-. Dark Knight's an A to A+, and Dark Knight Rises is like a B. They're all brilliant. They're all amongst the best superhero films, or the first two. And watch them. If you've somehow never seen The Dark Knight, or if you haven't rewatched them in the last 2 years, they'll be on Hulu as of May 1st. Also, we got Brick Mansions. If you guys like cheesy action movies as much as I do, and you like Paul Walker as much as I do, Brick Mansions is one of those Paul Walker movies I feel like didn't get any love. Brick Mansions is so much fun. It's silly. Its soundtrack's fun. Its action is fun. It's Brick Mansions. Check it out. On Hulu, it's free. Goodfellas. I've never seen Goodfellas. This is the same as admitting I've never seen Seinfeld. I'm so sorry. I've never seen Goodfellas, so I'll be watching it in May. And another movie, and you know those movies, I just got a Letterboxd, so I looked through and I was like, how have I never seen blankety blankety blank? And then I looked at their streaming, and now I'm writing down so I can right those wrongs. I've never seen The Green Mile. So Goodfellas and The Green Mile, I'll be watching in the next 2 months, and I'll be catching up to the rest of society, and I apologize for that. Also, I got a Letterboxd, so if you guys are on Letterboxd, I have horrible insomnia lately. I was up till 5 a.m., and then I slept till 8:30. I got 3 hours of sleep. Coffee. Doing Letterboxd, and I rated 2,000 movies in the last 2 days. So I did 1,300 movies on Sunday, and then last night I did 700 movies in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep. So I have rated 2,000 films on Letterboxd, and I'll be keeping a journal of what I watch every day and plugging away in there. And if you're a patron and you want to have me review one of those movies, I might do a different Patreon tier to review something I just watched. That wouldn't be as expensive because I wouldn't be having to find the movie, take the time to watch it. Like, I could do a review for you that way. So if that's something you'd be interested in, do let me know. But also follow me on Letterboxd and let me know what you want to hear me talk about. The Patriot, also on Hulu if you don't have Netflix. And then this week, nothing new on Amazon Prime for me. I like Amazon Prime, but this week there was nothing that called out to me. We also had the new comics for the week I talked about earlier on the 28th, just yesterday. Daphne Keene #4, Batman Giant #4. Next week we'll have 2 to 3 new DC books, including Joker Harley Criminal Sanity #4, which I'm so excited about. So we'll be talking about comics again. It's been 4 weeks of not talking about comic books, new comic books, and it has been absolutely killing me. All right, I'm going to check the live chat, and then I'm going to do a Saga book club. I do have a Spidey cat pillow. This is a Spidey cat. Let's see. I want to make sure I didn't miss everybody. Okay, I found that. Good. I'm gonna click over here. My internet's real slow. All apologies on that. I'm gonna have Spidey Cat distract you guys from the fact that I'm letting my internet load. If there's dead air, it's my fault, so I apologize for that. But there's 50 of you guys in this bad Larry, so I want to make sure you stay entertained as we dive into the Saga portion of the show. But I want to make sure I check my Streamlabs, because you guys have been amazing. I really, honestly, I can't thank the Koi Pond enough. The people that do Streamlabs and do Sahil, Smack Talk, the people that like are consistently here for even just commenting on the show, just knowing that people are watching helps me feel connected in these very, very isolated times, intentionally isolated. But it really helps my sanity to know that we're all kind of watching and enjoying stuff together. Really important. All right, we are good to go to start the Saga Book Club. Now, if you guys are new to the show, every week I'll be doing 3 issues of Saga, and I'll be diving deep into the glory of what I enjoyed on it. If you want just the audio version, the $10 patron madness, I do a full podcast that's just for patrons, and I do a verbal deep dive with my notes, and I analyze Saga. So that is in my my Patreon, the podcast tier. I do all the reviews of things I've enjoyed that week and a Saga deep dive. But on YouTube, because I never want you guys to feel like you have to pay for anything, because I hate that paywall bullshit. I also do it where I flip through the book and I dive into the stuff that I remember enjoying over here. So I'm going to dive into some Saga. Won't you join me? I feel like Mr. Rogers. Let's see about issues 7, 8, and 9. Caitlin Manchester, I always need Spidey Cat in my life. Oh, I heard about that Goosebumps thing. Jen James says Goosebumps is returning to the small screen with a new TV series from producer Neil H. Moretz. Very excited about that myself. All right, let's talk about 7, 8, and 9, shall we? Anyone that picked up Saga, thank you. I've gotten a lot of tweets about people picking up Saga and reading it because of this book club, and that, honestly, the fact that Saga's getting a single copy sold because of me fills me with such honor. Like, I'm truly flattered beyond words. Okay. We got 7, 8, and 9. I'm so precious with this book, 'cause it's my baby. Issue 7. Okay. You guys ready? It's time to talk books. And then I'll check the Streamlabs again one last time. All right. We got Saga, issue 7. Splash pages are used so well in this book because they use them cinematically. Like, this book is able to grab a frame much like a cinematographer grabs a shot. And I know that's what comics are meant to do, but something about Fiona Staples' framework just really sings cinema to me, and I love this comic. The use of yellow here just really establishes a tone for the world. They're a moon-based world. They're the horns on Wreath, which is this they don't have as much money. It's a poorer planet, and they're magic-based, and they're seen as primitive, and it's really abusive the way they're treated. And I love that we get to meet the family, and I love that we get to see how close-knit they are. And I also love that when they speak, they don't translate that for us. So we've got Hazel's narration, but all of the actual speak of these folk are it's just for them. So we rely on the emotionality of the faces, and we rely on basically all the character work that Fiona Staples does with Brian K. Vaughan's great writing. Like, I'm sure these things all actually translate to something, but I like that we don't know that. And then we get from peace immediately to war. They bring young Marco to a war zone, and we immediately see why the horns and the wings hate each other so much. We immediately see the chaos of war, the brutality of war, and juxtaposing that, love that can come out of bonding. We get this incredible transition from the war between the wings and the horns into a child that was born out of it. So he was raised to hate these people, and now he married one, loves one more than anything. And I love the compassion and love that is inherent in Saga. I love the equality of all people that is inherent in Saga. Beautiful transition. Love that scene. And also now, Alana's got to meet the folks. So we are meeting Marco's family. And then immediately from meeting Marco's family, we find out that Izzy was jettisoned. Izzy, their babysitter, was jettisoned to the nearest planet with the spell, and they dive through a portal. Now, this moment's really important to me because not only do we see that Marco's mom is an action, go-getter, forethought, gonna dive in, which beautifully mirrors Alana, but we also see very quickly that Marco's dad is just like him. So that explains in very limited dialogue how Marco would have been so drawn to Alana. Like, he was raised by parents that loved each other, where the mom was this action, go-getter, intelligent woman, and the dad was doting and paternal, and that's what he created in his family. His family reflects, his current family reflects the family he was raised in. So we're instantly endeared to the family, we're instantly endeared to the parents, and it makes sense, his backstory. All of that said in like 5 pages. Brilliant. We then click over to the continued incredible use of these lying vines. I love the way magic is used in the story. I love that magic having a cost, I think, is used better in this than like some of the Doctor Strange stories and a lot of the more mainstream magic. And the fact that the cost gives us exposition without feeling like exposition is also very, very magical. And we find out through those magic vines that Marco's dad is dying. And that's brutal, even though we just met him. We just met the guy. We then click over to Marco and his mom on this planet trying to find Isabel, discussing their family heritage, going through all that madness. We find out how rough he was raised because basically they sold their house to buy helmets. So not only does that show how much they love their son, but how rough he's had it his whole life. What world he came from that a house only got 2 helmets and they got 2 helmets to go rescue him because he broke the sword. So they're upset with him because he's betraying that family heritage, but also they love him so much they're willing to do it. All of this. Then we click over to one of the most graphic pages that I've ever seen in comics. The grossest character ever. This splash page. I'll let you find that out for yourself. The character design, repugnant. Impressively repugnant. The fact that Fiona Staples can make like a Spider-Woman sexy and this creature exists with the same lines, like, art is so cool. We go back to Lion Cat and the Will. He is reminiscing about the Stalk, and it is hard to watch because man, oh man, does he love the Stalk. We gotta click over to him finding out, or Alana finding out that Marco's dad is in fact dying, and that is a beautiful bond that is instantly made between the two of them because his wife doesn't even know. Yeah, Motorola, Saga spoilers. Get out of here. Get out of here. If you guys haven't read Saga yet, and you want to. Alright, and then magic. He takes out Alana, puts her to sleep calmly, gently, but we just met this guy. We don't know what he's going to do, and then the last page is him holding Hazel, and we just met him. We know he's dying. We assume he's a good guy, but I remember being very worried about Hazel in this moment. We get a splash page, which usually doesn't bode well. Very intense. All right. This reminds me of Sir Pat reading sonnets on his Instagram. I couldn't be more flattered. Thank you. Patrick Stewart is a god, and I'm just trying to have some story time with you guys in quarantine, so I appreciate that. All right, checking the Streamlabs as I said I would before we click over to issue 8. Now, were it not the first week that I had my brand new Coycast swag, I would be wearing my Saga shirt, because I have an actual Saga shirt of issue 8. Issue 8 is one of my favorite covers, and they make this as a shirt. So I have this shirt right here. Now, this is fun because this is in a comic, and it is a page from the novel within the comic. So this is lore set within this lore, and I just love the juxtaposition of print in a comic book page. I thought this was very fun. Yeah, dug it all around. All right, going over to... we are learning more about Alana's backstory. We are meeting Alana while she's reading the book. With the mythology of the book grows in issue 8. And then we have the powerful moment where she goes to take on a prisoner who's causing problems, and it is wonderfully Marco. So we find out that Marco and Alana meet while he's trapped in prison. He's literally learning to speak. I love how he... Once again, intelligence is so important to me, and I also love language. The concept of language, the execution of language, how language is used as love, and how language is so important in this book. They even refer to language as language, and later on they refer to the speak of the horned folk as blue, and I love that. Like, it'd be like calling what I'm speaking English. They call that language blue, and it is, of course, in blue. Little details. But the moment they actually meet is the 200th page of Saga, a splash page. The 200th page in this beautiful opus is her smashing his face and Hazel narrating how cute that is. This book. Then we go over to, I loved this moment because Alana wakes up and Marco's dad looks enough like him that she instinctively thinks it's Marco because she's half awake. And again, that bonds them together. She is worried immediately that it's not him, but there's this beautiful moment of peace and love and family, and then, oh no, that guy stole my baby. She then is still under the spell, leaps out, has that whole experience, and then we don't know what's going to happen with Alana and Marco's dad because we just met this guy. We don't trust him. Back to the most disgusting creature I've seen in comics, or one of them, fighting with Marco and the mom. She wants to kill, he doesn't kill, he rescues, saves, knocks the thing out, starts to use a translation spell with a ring that his ex-fiancé gave him, which we find out is a family heirloom later on, becomes very important. And then we have a little bit of magic. Now, magic coming at a cost is very interesting because Marco uses magic all the time, and he's one of the only characters people don't critique for. So he's such a powerful sorcerer that doesn't use it. So that builds and builds as we go along. And then we've been worried about Hazel. Alana wakes up with Hazel in her arms, perfectly safe and sound. And not only that, but Barr, Marco's dad, has started making clothing / armor for the whole family. So we find out he's dying, and not just that, he wants to help before he goes. He doesn't want to spend his last days being fretted over. He doesn't want to spend it with people that are sad that he's going. He wants to spend it with people that love him and help. And I love that perspective on death. Like, if I'm of sound mind when I'm dying, I only hope that I can say, like, hey, don't worry about me. Like, I want to be with you. I want to love on you. I want this experience. And I think it's really beautiful, his perspective on death, and I think that's something we could all model our own after. It's just a beautiful thing. And also her perspective on love here, like the way she talks about Marco is how I'd love for anyone to speak of me and that relation, and I think I love the two of them, you guys. Okay, back to the violence and grossness. We got the family translating all of the madness, and we basically find out that while they're hunting Hazel, they're not on a planet, they're on a giant egg. So the scope of this all shifts once again. Then we go back to the agent of the freelancers who is dealing with this entire trajectory of a bunch of people chasing Marco, Alana, and Hazel. Basically the whole galaxy, different people are going after them, and this guy is just dealing with all of that. And I love this character because he looks weird enough that all of his dialogue just becomes inherently funny. And that's the fun thing about the medium of comic books. Like, when you cast a character actor, sometimes it's their face that makes the dialogue funny. And when you do that in comics, it's really interesting what characters you get and, like, what animals get shaped into those characters. So this seahorse agent, always funny to me. All right, clicking over to, we meet Gwendolyn. So, Gwendolyn is Marco's ex. Gwendolyn is a powerhouse. Gwendolyn is immediately awesome, and I love that we can't hate her. Alright, we got one last issue. Gonna quickly check the Streamlabs and the live chat. Guys, it is 90 plus degrees in my place. I'm sorry if my close-up is revealing just how sweaty I am. Alright, good to go in the live chat, and Streamlabs good to go. Okay. Back to the book. All right, so we got issue number 9. We go back to the stock. Hey, she's doing great. She's just got a little hole. She's fine. She patched herself up. She's, oh, wait a second. This isn't that kind of comic book. He is absolutely and completely delusional. Once again, the Will madly in love with the stock, and I liked this use of dream sequence. It's overdone in movies, but I really like that we are now more endeared to the Will because we see the compassion and love he had for the stock and how much he misses her. We go back to Lion Cat waking up the Will, him having a nightmare. Gwendolyn is now here, making fun of the Will's lack of ability, and this moment's really interesting because she has a translator ring. That's how she's able to speak, because she's a lowly horn. And the moment right here, this one panel, the sentimentality she has for her family, saying it was a family heirloom, and the moment she says it's part of a set, we immediately see she regrets the relationship, she cares about her family, and now we've got the Will, who we should by all means hate. He's hunting our leads, but he just rescued a kid from sex trafficking. He's attempting to rescue a kid from sex trafficking. He's doing all the right things except for the fact that he's hunting our people, so he's just doing his job. So our antagonists are automatically endearing, and then the ex-girlfriend is automatically awesome. Like, the way they're able to make our antagonists that we shouldn't love instantly lovable is impressive this whole book. So then Lion Cat's use for comedy here is so good. The fact that basically everything Gwendolyn says, Lion Cat kind of sources through, and then the comedy of him being able to read through some of it as well, and then later on him trying to make money off it, and then Lion Cat working for no man because he's a cat. Cats are not as loyal as many other creatures, so Lion Cat's on his own trajectory, and I really like this whole sequence between the two of them. Also, Fiona Staples, the Lion Cat expressions are just beautiful. Okay, and then we head back to dealing with Sextillion. Now, Gwendolyn is now in a position where she can help and wants to, because they both require something from each other, and she uses her intellect, she uses her mind, she lawyers her way into getting the sex-trafficked child off planet and them to go get rescued, but it is, of course, a trap. Now, this moment I'm very curious about. I'm pretty sure this is a Knight's Tale reference. I love this right here, because he says it's a lance, which is an Alan Tudyk moment from A Knight's Tale, so I'd like to think that Brian K. Vaughan is a Knight's Tale fan. These creatures right here are some of the, like, they're just so ugh, every time I see them. We get a cool little fight sequence. We've got, I realize I also want you guys to read this book, so I don't want to just give everything away. Great fight sequence, good use of magic. In this use of magic, Gwendolyn does a spell, and then the will says, hey, you shouldn't do that, it takes a week off your life. And then we find out that, of course, Marco taught her that, so we find out again just how powerful Marco is. And then we have rescued the kid, who is just adorable. Look at the kid sleeping with the lion cat, it's precious. Okay, and then the comic ends because she can sense the ring, and she has like a homing beacon on Marco and Alana, so now the chase is back on. This comic is largely a giant pursuit. It is characters chasing each other. It is many different elements and animals and strange storytelling tropes, and I love it so, so very much. I got real sweaty at the end there. All apologies, guys, literally and metaphorically. I'm gonna scoot. I hope you guys have enjoyed this installment of Saga Book Club. Again, if you want the audio version where I've got notes and I deep dive into more specificity, that's over on my Patreon. I do 3 issues every single week over there. And also, thank you for everything here. I really appreciate you guys. I love doing the show, and I really want to thank Michael M. and Smack Talk over in the Streamlabs. You guys really, truly appreciate it. Thank you guys so, so very much. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Check out some of the content I recommended. Let me know what you think of it. Please share, like, subscribe, all that YouTube shit. And as always, thank you, comic books, for existing. I will see you guys next week.